It is 8:30 p.m. on the west coast of the United States. That makes it 0330 GMT. And thank you for being here, both live and on tape, for 420 Legalization Nation. We're kind of summarizing the news of the 420 legalization movement, a look at the way things are rolling in the states that have legalized it for recreational reasons, a look at the fight over medical marijuana in many of the states that are continuing to fight it, and also the places that have effectively voted to legalize medical marijuana. And of course, a look at the more amusing parts of things, including this edition. We will have a look at many of the, many of the traditional classic, not Reefer Madness, the movie itself, many of the traditional classic anti-marijuana commercials. In fact, maybe we'll start with a couple of those. A look at what is actually coming up. We have a number of news stories from the latest situations going on. What Nevada is learning from Colorado as far as its recreational legalization. We've covered this in a recent show. What also we'll look at the lawsuit from the state of Kansas, in so much as suing the state of Colorado because now Kansas is seeing spillover because Kansas and Colorado butt up against each other. Geographically speaking, many of the people who are crossing the border to go get some Colorado marijuana in the recreational stores, where all you have to do is essentially be 21 years old and go back across the border, and now there's illicit material in the state of Kansas where it's not allowed. And there's a lawsuit going on, basically, that the people in government and law enforcement in that state don't like it very much. However, has crime gone up? Has other problems gone up? I mean, aside from the crime of possession, we will talk about that as well. A look at the grassroots sabotage tale I've been following, a great story of the folks at DARE falling for one of these satirical news stories regarding marijuana. And is it pot or is it tea? We have all of these news stories coming up. In fact, let's go ahead and start with one of these stories I really liked very much. It was the story of grassroots sabotage. Now, when I say I like it, I don't like it that it happened, but I do like it as far as fodder for discussion on a show like this. It's really quite profound and it's really quite interesting. Let me switch over to it here and you can read along with me. Did a marijuana group sabotage a grassroots effort? This is from Cincinnati.com, a news story from the folks at Gannett. Medical marijuana advocates trying to put an initiative on the November 5th ballot have accused the founders of the well-financed Responsible Ohio of crippling the smaller, weaker competitor. This is essentially a fight over which marijuana legalization effort is the one that's better. Kind of fascinating when you look at it. An April 13th complaint to the Ohio Elections Commission, Ohio Rights Group, said the people who went on to create Responsible Ohio infiltrated the Ohio Rights Group to gain information and to dissuade financial donors. The complaint accuses Ian James and David Bruno of flying a false flag, promising help to Ohio Rights Group, and then using the knowledge gained to build their own group. Let's take a look at the websites of the comparative places. Here is the website for Ohio Rights Group, Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment. They're pushing for a stronger, safer, healthier Ohio. You can download a petition. You can see the full text of the amendment. You can see signature gathering instructions and other information involving the ballot initiative campaign. Essentially, this is a multi-section initiative here. Is it an initiative or a referendum? I always get mixed up. This is the actual amendment, I guess, to the Constitution of the state of Ohio, that they amend it by adopting this section as Section 12 of Article 15 to read that the medical, therapeutic, and industrial use and regulation of cannabis is permitted and regulated thusly. And it's rather long to go ahead and read here live, but it goes on for a number of things. And let's just see what the comments say. Let's see here. All right, well, here's comments from various people. One of these people, I live in South Point, working on getting a chapter of NORML in his area. Ohio needs to hurry up and get this ball rolling. He's dying of liver failure, and smoking weed is the only thing he could take for his intense pain. Other people are asking where to sign the petition. Other people also talking about the medical need for it. These are people who take multiple pills for pain and potentially overdosing on things. As far as the, what I suppose, opiate pain medication that they have to take. This person said they have 4 levels fused in their neck, 1 in their lower back, and a bulging disc above that. And this person also has PTSD. I mean, we've talked about it repeatedly here on this program, where you talk about sleep disturbances, anxiety disturbances, lack of appetite, and pain relief. That's kind of the, I believe I referred to it as a trifecta before. I must have just thrown an extra one in, but essentially those 4 areas are almost undeniable as far as the use of medical marijuana for treating various things. People who I know who have anxiety or who have sleep disturbances, trouble going to sleep, trouble staying asleep. There's multiple levels of disturbance when it comes to sleep. Some people have trouble falling asleep but not staying asleep. Other people can fall asleep but then wake up. And both of those can be alleviated with the right amount and the right type of marijuana. It's pretty much clear. Also, other people on this website are, you know, saying that they want to volunteer to support the push for this amendment to the Ohio Constitution. Again, this is only part of the story, because this part of the story is from the Ohio Rights Group. Now, the allegation from this news story on Cincinnati.com says that people infiltrated the Ohio Rights Group, dissuaded some donors, and created Responsible Ohio. Let's look at Responsible Ohio's website. This one is not themed in green as the Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment, folks. The ORG is themed in green. Not that that's a good or bad thing, but I always feel like I'm not always a fan of cliche or obviousness when it comes to certain things. And, you know, many people in, say, the medical marijuana industry might be subject to falling for that green color theming and sort of the cliche, if you will. This is a much simpler looking website. Register to vote here, stay informed here, give us your email to get information. Here's a video of a girl with uncontrollable epilepsy. Doctors believe medical marijuana can help the condition she has, but it is not a legal option. So this isn't just medical marijuana. This is medical marijuana proposed for a 7-year-old. Probably a more controversial use, yet, you know, name the medication that is, I mean, some medications are more important or more, I guess, appropriate or prescribed for children, and certain other ones are not. So I suppose it's arguable. But a girl with uncontrollable epilepsy, where some doctors apparently claim they believe, this is a 6-minute video. I don't want to watch it here, but there is a lot of information. This is a much simpler website. Again, I'm not really necessarily choosing sides between one website or the other, but let's go back to the news article from Cincinnati.com. The complaint says that one of these guys, David Bruno, used his childhood friendship with the ORG executive director, John Party, to gain an advantage, and that Bruno was taking consultants' fees from ORG while laying the foundation for the other organization, Responsible Ohio. A spokeswoman scoffed at the accusations, saying the group's campaign already collected more than 160 of the 306,000 signatures necessary to put that on the ballot. That is as of April the 22nd this year. Spokeswoman said this is a bogus complaint. In their filing, they described their own campaign as crippled, and now they're blaming others. Responsible Ohio is excited to have an excellent team of campaign professionals working to pass the amendment this year. They look forward to continuing this positive momentum in the coming months. Now, the agency, it doesn't say which agency, I guess the Ohio Elections Commission has scheduled a May 21st hearing on the complaint from the folks at ORG. In a cover letter, the ORG secretary wrote, the actions of these individuals have had a devastating impact on their ability to raise funds, retain volunteers, and motivate staff. This may have been a planned strategy by selected individuals intent on locking the wealthy into Ohio's emerging billion-dollar cannabis industry during its infancy. So, again, there's a financial interests being suggested here. Back in 2013, January of 2013, the grassroots organization was collecting signatures for the Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment. The group collected 150 signatures, about half needed. Last month, they said they've already recruited new volunteers, and the presence of the Responsible Ohio initiative energized ORG to collect more signatures. Responsible Ohio was formed about a year and a half later, pulling together a group of wealthy Ohioans, and they were campaigning to constitutionally amend that Marijuana Control Commission fully legalize the drug. So it sounds like the folks at Responsible Ohio want to legalize it for all the way up to including recreational use. The folks at ORG want it for medical use. The plan calls for 10 farms around the state to grow the crop and for other entrepreneurs to process and sell the cannabis. Counties and municipalities would share in the tax money raised. Activists with ORG and Ohioans to end prohibition have been pushing back against the proposal as creating an agricultural monopoly. Responsible Ohio proponents say the 10-farm structure is necessary for effective regulation and taxation. Do let me know what you think, by the way. You are able to tweet me at the address below, at Sebastian Kuntz. Even as ORG paid some of these people, they made extensive trips across the state, talking to activists, talking to funders. The complaint also said that in May 2014, ORG was courting Jim Hagedorn, president of Miracle Grow in Marysville. We've covered the Miracle Grow story before. The folks at Miracle Grow made a pretty big investment in hydroponic technology, and possibly even purchased a hydroponic company, if I'm remembering that story right. Officials later learned that when the additional information was provided, their names had been removed and substituted with these other names from the other group. That company had been doing work for ORG. When ORG tried to follow up, they got no response. The complaint also says ORG paid Bruno, this person who accused of infiltrating the group, $7,500 to build a database of petition signatures that was never completed. Another ORG worker got $4,000 from the group as director of special projects, and 2 weeks later, that person also reportedly resigned and went to work for Responsible Colorado. A very interesting story from the folks in Cincinnati as far as which organization had claim to these people first, their work first, whether or not they had paid them for work that didn't get completed later. There's probably a lot that's going to go on. And again, the complaint is from April the 13th. The actual hearing is for May the 21st. That is about 2 weeks away from now. So we'll continue to watch that story here and continue to report back. One of the other stories I wanted to talk about was the guy who claims his pot was tea. This comes to us from Texas, a state known for being a bit on the conservative side, no doubt. Also a state known for not allowing legal marijuana in just about any way. Pardon me. Bit of a sneeze there. But this man claims his pot was tea, according to police. Let's switch to NBCDFW.com, the news story here from the folks at NBC Dallas-Fort Worth. Man claims pot was tea, according to the police report. Scrolling down a bit, a man in Central Texas was arrested after claiming high-grade marijuana found in his car was tea. The man is Guanyu Chen. Waco Tribune Herald reports that McLennan County Sheriff's Office deputies pulled over 27-year-old Guanyu Chen on Sunday. The date on this story, again, is not apparent on this website, which is strange for a news site. Oh, wait, here we go. Published April 20th. So this is actually from the date 4/20. Upon searching the vehicle, a deputy found 4 vacuum-sealed bags and $1,400 in cash. The sheriff says Chen told officials the bags contained tea. He sounds like a Chinese guy, or at least a guy of Chinese descent. A sheriff's canine indicate the bags contained not tea, but something else. Chen has been charged with possession of marijuana, being held in McLennan County Jail, $10,000 bond. Not clear whether Chen had a lawyer. Let's do a news Google search for Texas Chen marijuana. See if there's an update. It looks like the latest story is from roughly the same date. Police raided the club of a pot activist who quit the TV job. That from Anchorage, Alaska. We've heard that story. We may have to look at that. And other stories. So the newest story we have is apparently from KGBT TV, valleycentral.com, which looks like it is also in Texas. This story is actually just from the Associated Press. There has been no follow-up as far as any of the news stories I'm able to, nor news sources, I should say, that I'm able to find here. That's always disappointing because I'd like to know what happened to him, if he was able to get out of jail, if they are going to throw the book at him. It's never clear, but kind of an unfortunate story there. And again, we probably know that the marijuana was not tea. It was probably a rather laughable claim of his. And yet, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've heard that before. It's not like the first time people have referred to it as tea. For that matter, you can make tea out of marijuana. So it's not as though it's a horribly outlandish claim, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit silly in some ways, but in other ways, it's maybe not. Let's move to California. You don't think of many marijuana-related disputes in the city of Berkeley in the San Francisco Bay Area, but the 40 acres new cannabis site is illegal, according to the city of Berkeley. Let's look at berkeleyside.com. It's called the 40 Acres Medical Marijuana Growers Collective. 3 months after the city council in Berkeley ordered them to shut their doors because it was a public nuisance, the organization is relocated to Ashby Avenue in Berkeley and is once again operating illegally, according to city officials. The co-founder of 40 Acres opened up the house at his home on Ashby Avenue near Sacramento Street in Berkeley. These streets don't mean anything to you if you've never been to Berkeley. I come from the San Francisco Bay Area, spending a long time there as a journalist, so I'm intimately familiar. Ashby is a major avenue through the city of Berkeley. They ordered the operation shut down mid-April. City officials say the home straddles a residential and commercial zone with most of the property inside a commercial zone. His new location does not fit city zoning guidelines for a number of reasons. If it's a collective, it cannot operate in a commercial or manufacturing district, and they cannot have more than 5 visitors a day. Dispensaries can operate in commercial zones, but 40 Acres is not licensed to be a dispensary. 3 dispensaries are currently licensed. 40 Acres has applied for a permit to operate a 4th, but officials are still vetting the application. So operating at 1510 Ashby is not permitted. 40 Acres did not move from its longtime home after the city council ordered it to back in January. His attorneys fought and lost in court. They filed an appeal, according to one of his lawyers. Back in April, Smith and 4 other Berkeley residents filed a new lawsuit against the city and the Medical Cannabis Commission, alleging the 3 dispensaries in Berkeley were also operating illegally. They are Berkeley Patients Group, Berkeley Patients Care Collective, and Cannabis Buyers Club of Berkeley. The lawsuit does not name the dispensaries as plaintiffs. The lawsuit says none of the 3 dispensaries have filed for nonprofit status. State law requires that medical operation not be for profit. Berkeley never established any regulations to or held any hearings to determine the 3 dispensaries should have gotten permits to operate. Thus, they are not authorized under any legal process. And the existing dispensaries are exploiting Berkeley residents because they are selling medical cannabis at an inflated price. The lawsuit contends the Berkeley Patients Group has in the past made a 300% profit on medical cannabis. The city attorney says the 2004 ordinance, so their ordinance goes back 11 years in the city of Berkeley, only says the dispensaries have to operate in a not-for-profit manner. The ordinance, they say, does not set out what legal form the dispensaries may adopt. The lawsuit assumes that the 3 dispensaries must have a particular mandated organization. It says he believes the existing dispensaries are lawful. I assume they are complying, says Cowan, who is the city attorney. If they don't, they will have a problem. So that's the story there. And again, the comments are what you'd expect in the comments, whether it's coming to you from a common sense perspective or from an activism perspective. Either way, it's like, really, we have, alcohol stores, liquor stores on every corner, liquor sold in every convenience store, liquor sold in every grocery store, liquor sold in many drug stores, health food stores, not health food stores, but stores that are meant for health. In other words, drugstores like Walgreens and so on. You'll often see alcohol there, and yet, fascinating. I believe in San Francisco, for instance, one of the laws that was passed, and I would have to look this up to be sure, but I believe they may have outlawed the sale of tobacco in San Francisco. Sale of tobacco, San Francisco drugstores. Because the idea being, if you're going, a drugstore is a place where you get medicine for health. And I can't seem to nail down any, let's see here, ban of tobacco drugstores. And chewing tobacco, pot shots, warnings for pregnant women rejected in Colorado. There's an interesting story, and I actually have not seen this. Let's switch to the San Francisco Chronicle. Not that I like sort of going off of my scheduled sort of news rundown, but this is a story, honestly, I thought I would have seen in my research for doing this show and have not. Pot shops warnings for pregnant women have been rejected in Colorado. This dated April 22nd this year. A Colorado proposal, and this from the Associated Press, a Colorado proposal to require marijuana shops to post warnings for pregnant and nursing women failed Wednesday when Senate Republicans said the first in the nation requirement would be unfair. The bill to require maternal pot warning signs had the support of some Republicans and the state health department. Supporters conceded there's limited research that maternal marijuana use harms fetuses and nursing kids. They say Colorado should err on the side of warning consumers in the same way that there's warnings on tobacco and alcohol. Of course, we all know tobacco and alcohol do not have many of the same properties as marijuana. The Colorado Medical Society attorney said it just encourages women to get more knowledge about the potential risks. But a Senate committee voted, this now being about 2 weeks ago, to reject the idea. The vote was 5-4 against. 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat on the committee said it's not fair to require maternal warnings in pot shops, but not liquor stores or drugstores. So there's the idea. Although many of the places where I have lived, there are such warnings in, say, liquor stores or drugstores for places where possibly pregnant or nursing women want to buy alcohol. All of those things could be damaging to someone who's possibly pregnant, said this man, Republican out of Littleton, Colorado. Recreational marijuana products sold in Colorado pot shops already contain warning labels about maternal pot use, similar to the labels on alcohol and tobacco. That's what I was looking to see. The stores themselves do not have to warn customers that pot poses risks to children. Other opponents feared the signs would invite pot shops to be seen as places to seek medical advice. Isn't that interesting? That is a sort of tidbit I did not think about. Let's read that again. Other opponents feared the signs would invite pot shops to be seen as a place to seek medical advice. So if there's a woman who's pregnant and does not somehow know that pretty much everything she puts into her body will affect the fetus in one way or another, they don't want the pregnant woman to start asking medical questions in a medical pot shop any more than she would be asking questions in a liquor store. I'm not sure I fully grasp that. Democratic Senator Laura Woods of Arvada says the conversation is best between a woman and her doctor. Well, that's obvious. An earlier version of the warning bill would have banned the sale of pot to pregnant women. That proposal was scrapped, although the version that was rejected Wednesday did include a ban on directing pot marketing toward pregnant women. Opponents derided the marketing limitation as vague. And we have a look at the House bill here. I mean, we can click on it. I don't know how much we'll get from it. Concerning posting warning information for pregnant women about the potential risks of marijuana at marijuana businesses. And we have all of the legalese speak. How many pages is it? Well, it's only 4 pages. Not so long, but again, it has been rejected from the folks at the state of Colorado. Pretty fascinating. Speaking of Colorado, we talked about the effect it's having on nearby states. We've mentioned the lawsuit that is coming or that is, I guess, underway. Let's just look at the news story regarding that lawsuit again, because I feel like that's probably a good place to start. State suing Colorado recreational marijuana. All right. Okay, this from May 4th. This from yesterday. Here's an update on the story that I first brought you last week. Oh, 2 states actually, not just one in this version of the article. Oklahoma and Nebraska both are calling Colorado's legalization of pot a cross-border nuisance. And the Supreme Court this week asked the Obama administration to weigh in on a lawsuit brought by 2 states trying to roll back Colorado's voter-approved legalization of recreational pot use. That's where I want to start discussion of this. All right. This was a voter-approved measure. let's just go and research exactly what the results were. Colorado votes to legalize recreational marijuana. I want to see what the results were. Here we go. It was Colorado Amendment 64. I'll bring it up on your screen here. This is from Wikipedia. I don't necessarily like using Wikipedia as a source, but it's where we will start. It was 55% to 45% according to that. Let's actually go down to the source material here and see. Let's see. There's a lot of information here. I hate to just skip over it, but again, Wikipedia is not known for being... Okay, the measure passed along with a similar measure. Both marked an electoral first, not only for America, but for the world. All right, let's look at this. This from theeconomist.com. November 2012. Here we go. Colorado and Washington will be able to do that if the states voted to legalize marijuana for recreational purposes. It is, of course, illegal under federal law. The results are not here, but let's assume, I hate to assume that Wikipedia is right. I feel like it's probably safe to use that, but let's actually go to a ballot summary here that is legitimate. That's from February 2012. Let's look at any of the results here in the references, if we can. I wish they would have just a link to it. And of course they don't. At any rate, we know it passed. It's been going like gangbusters there. In fact, we have a whole list of sort of information regarding the amount of tax collection figures. 44 million for recreational marijuana, with a further 32 million collected from fees on the industry and pre-existing taxes on medical marijuana. So that's some $75 million, roughly speaking. And again, the key thing here is not the amount by which it was legalized, but that it was in fact legalized. Voters, you and me, the people, approved this in the state of Colorado. The people there, right? That's why we have city elections and county elections and state elections, is because the cultures for each area are different. That's the reason not all elections are federal elections. Can you imagine if we had to vote on legalizing marijuana in Colorado in a state like California? California tried to do it. California was not able to make the measure pass to legalize recreational marijuana, and Washington and Colorado were. So, you know, I struggle with understanding how states nearby are going to try and get a state to roll back something that is approved by law. Of course, in the case of California, you can also talk about Prop 8, the ban on same-sex marriage in the state, which also passed in the state of California because of that last-minute push by religious conservatives and religious rich conservative organizations to, you know, put TV ads on the screen, which got conservative religious voters out, and the conservative religious voters were able to make Proposition 8 pass. Now, it was overturned legally in a court, and I guess that is the idea behind what they're trying to do for the nearby neighboring states of Colorado. They want the court to overturn the legalization of recreational marijuana in the states of Nebraska and Oklahoma. The states claim Colorado's created a cross-border nuisance by increasing the supply of marijuana that could flow through the region, something exacerbated by the Obama administration's policy to avoid interference with state experiments in legalization. And again, the lead story here, the Supreme Court is asking Obama's administration to weigh in on the lawsuit for additional information. The petition was filed late last December. It asked the Supreme Court justices, to step in under their special power to resolve the disputes between states without waiting for lower courts to weigh in first. Such cases heard under the court's original rather than appellate jurisdiction usually have involved boundary or water disputes between states. Rather than conduct their own trial, the justices typically assign an expert to gather facts and make recommendations. The administration's wholesale disregard for the law led Oklahoma and Nebraska to sue Colorado to stop the stream of illegal marijuana flowing into our states as a result of Colorado's legalization of the commercial production and sale of marijuana, according to the Oklahoma Attorney General, Scott Pruitt, and his spokesperson. The Nebraska Attorney General says he was, quote, excited the court has recognized the importance of the issue to Nebraskans, and I look forward to hearing the federal government's views. Accent, by the way, applied by me, not necessarily representative of how Doug Peterson, Attorney General for the state of Nebraska, talks, although I bet it's not far off. Quote, as we argued in our brief, the federal government's decision to defer to Colorado's regulation of marijuana is at the heart of this case. The federal government's decision to defer is at the heart of this case. We are pleased the Supreme Court has asked the U.S. to explain its position on this litigation. All three states' attorneys general are Republicans. Colorado, in court documents, asked the Supreme Court to dismiss the case, arguing a nationwide reevaluation of marijuana policy is already underway. About half the states have authorized, at the very least, medical use or decriminalized individual possession. That's one of the parts that doesn't get a lot of mention. We talk about full recreational legalization. We talk about medical use of marijuana. Decriminalized individual possession is sort of a third step in this sort of sequence, this order of operations, if you will. Colorado said, including Nebraska itself, which classifies first-time possession of an ounce or less as an infraction. So again, Nebraska itself has undergone that third step of decriminalized individual possession. If you have a first-time possession of an ounce or less, it's not even like a full-on, violation. It's what's known as an infraction, which is sort of like, I guess, a fix-it ticket or a non-moving violation or something like that. It's something very minor, relatively speaking. Again, an ounce or less, first-time possession, that makes a lot of sense. In addition to Colorado, Alaska, Washington State, Oregon, and the District of Columbia legalizing recreational use of marijuana, the U.S. Justice Department isn't commenting. A legal brief for putting forward the administration's position is not expected for several months. University of Texas law professor Sanford Levinson said odds were slim justices would allow Nebraska and Oklahoma to circumvent the normal process of filing suit. Again, so they're not even just trying to get the will of the people overturned. I've already said that the will of the people sometimes can and should be overturned, certainly in the case of California's Prop 8. But in a case like even that case, I struggled with personally understanding, it's the will of the people. The people voted. It's going to take another vote of the people to undo it. Well, I was wrong about that, and hopefully I'm wrong about this. Or hopefully I'm not wrong about this, because this is one of the cases where it does not seem the will of the people should be overwritten. But again, I struggle with one and not the other, right? Why Prop? Well, again, I didn't really struggle because while I'm gay myself and don't have a person in my life currently, or didn't at the time, it's important to say that, freedom from government interference is probably a good thing. I feel like if you're really a Republican, reduced amount of government infraction and intervention in our lives should be one of the core beliefs. Now, the religious Republicans don't see it that way. They do want things like gay marriage to be banned because it is one man and one woman, and so on. And again, the rich Republican, conservative, religious folks who were able to use their extensive financial resources to put commercials on TV, scaring the hell out of religious conservatives in California to the point where they did turn out in droves in November 2008 to vote against gay marriage, to vote for the ban. One of the things I've noted in covering these stories in the past is you start trying to figure out which side is which very quickly, because we have gay marriage, we have the ban on gay marriage, we have overturning the ban on gay marriage, we have people who are against overturning the ban on gay marriage, and it's like, whoa, you really have to sort out things once they start to become complex like that. So I struggled with the court overturning the vote of the people. I was glad they did in the case of Prop 8. I also struggled with the court overturning the will of the people in Colorado. And more important than that, they're also circumventing the normal process of filing suit. They're seeking a more direct remedy rather than the usual process under which things like this go. Let's go back to the article from, is it the folks at the Wall Street Journal? I believe it is. Yes. University of Texas law professor said odds were slim the justices would let Nebraska and Oklahoma circumvent the normal process of filing suit and appealing to circuit court before seeking Supreme Court review. The real lawsuit shouldn't be filed against Colorado. It ought to be Nebraska and Oklahoma versus Lynch to force the Attorney General to enforce federal law, which is undoubtedly supreme over Colorado law. This from the law professor in the University of Texas. Again, let's read that and try and make sure we understand. The real lawsuit shouldn't be filed against the state of Colorado. It should be filed against the Attorney General, I guess the National Attorney General, they're saying, to enforce federal law. Okay, so that's what this University of Texas law professor is saying. The problem isn't that they're mad at Colorado. What they need to do is sue the federal Attorney General for not stamping down and using the 1970s, whatever the hell, Controlled Substances Act against Colorado and using that to, I guess, overturn the will of the people. Again, I really have a problem with overturning a vote of the people, even though there are times when it is clearly just in the most true sense of justice, and there are times when it appears to not be. Marijuana remains prohibited under the Federal Controlled Substances Act, but the Obama administration, after some uncertainty, has adopted a hands-off policy toward enforcement in states regulating individual use. In a 2013 memo, the Justice Department said marijuana enforcement traditionally is a state matter and that federal narcotics priorities ought to be focused elsewhere. I think that's, again, one of the core beliefs certainly that I tend to come back to a time and again on this program, which is there are bigger fish to fry in a very real sense. You know, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the scourge of meth, you know, if you want to talk about kids who think ecstasy is no more dangerous than vitamin pills, if you want to talk about over-the-counter prescription drugs like OxyContin and oxycodone and the abuse of those, if you want to talk about good old-fashioned alcohol, the amount of damage that is done by that, the number of people who die in alcohol-related accidents. If you want to talk about tobacco, there's all kinds of bigger fish to fry than marijuana. And certainly the limited resources our police and our federal agents have ought to be frying the most important fish. If you sort of take an overview, to use the Seinfeldian term, take an overview and see which are the real problems, which are really damaging to society, which is the highest prone for addiction, which has the most number of people dying. That's where I believe comedian Adam Carolla comes in a very, very smart way. He's a comedian and, you know, probably not worth pinning a whole lot of true philosophy on. But one of the things he says, and it's backed up by his partner, Dr. Drew Pinsky, very often, show me the body count. Whether it is nuclear energy, whether it is, you know, medical marijuana, you know, whether it is alcohol, whether it's tobacco, show me the body count. Show me the number of people killed each year by this substance, and then we'll talk. Show me the body count. Show me the numbers, you know, and I believe that is a very respectable, a very rational, reasonable, logical way of looking at things. And especially when it comes to things like marijuana, because when you start talking about show me the body count when it comes to marijuana, nobody's going to be able to do a whole lot because the statistics for the number of people killed in by marijuana itself, or even sort of the tangential ways, like marijuana under the influence crashes kind of a thing, you're not going to find a very, very high numbers there in just about any state. So I feel like this is a good statement. Federal narcotics priorities should be focused elsewhere. The memo that said state legalization, when implemented with strong and effective regulatory and enforcement systems, would in general be let alone. In 2005, the Supreme Court upheld the federal prohibition of marijuana under Congress's power to regulate interstate commerce. In addition to claiming Colorado's legalization has increased the flow of marijuana into their states, Oklahoma and Nebraska contend it has undermined federal authority and U.S. obligations under international treaties. Again, let's look at that. In addition to claiming Colorado's legalization has increased the flow of pot into Oklahoma and Nebraska, they also say it has undermined federal authority and U.S. obligations under international treaties. I'm really trying to parse this last statement here, and I don't get that. U.S. obligations under international treaties? I really don't get that. Money, money, money is why pot will become most legal everywhere, according to this commenter. Are Oklahoma and Nebraska worried about marijuana coming into their states or about money flowing out? And then this is a very intellectual and wordy pro-legalization statement from commenter Jeff Deutsch at the Wall Street Journal. So again, another very fascinating case looking at that. And in fact, this is an update as of 1 day ago from the story we first brought you just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, let's stop down and reassert that we are talking about the 420 Legalization Nation. That's the name of the program. This is a blatant effort to try and get on the Colorado Springs radio station that has devoted itself purely and entirely to marijuana-related programming. I am not high doing this show, have not smoked pot in a long time. The most recent time was, I've said repeatedly, and feel like it's important to continue saying, was when I was in Colorado for New Year's. Before that, it's been a long time then as well. So, you know, I feel like an intellectual approach to pro-legalization issues, or just an analysis journalistically. My career for many years was radio journalist. 20 years, in fact, of radio journalism under my belt. And spent last year teaching English in Mexico, just for a bit of a change. So what I wanted to do next was kind of an interesting thing. I was going to go to YouTube and look at old traditional sort of Reefer Madness, not the Reefer Madness movie itself, but that style of propaganda against marijuana over the years. And boy, did I found an entertaining and amusing video. And it hits me in different places around the brain. Like there's some of them that I find their approach almost reasonable. For instance, many of them are... Hey, how you doing? Oh, good Lord. Many of them are ads that are against children smoking pot. I think there's probably really good medical science to recommend that kids, just like avoiding alcohol before a certain age, should avoid marijuana before a certain age. It has a stunting effect to the psychology of... Now, many people in the pro-marijuana movement are like, "Aw, come on." And that's really all they say, is something logically equivalent to, "Aw, come on, you know, it doesn't hurt anybody, blah, blah, blah." Well, when you're talking about the formative brains of children and stuff like that, many intoxicating substances are probably worth staying away from. When you talk about driving under the influence, that's probably a good argument. But then again, we have many, many of these commercials over the years. This is a summary of 20 of them. 20 hilarious anti-cannabis commercials / PSAs from an account that is End Pot Prohibition. So, I mean, we all know which side of the argument this is. This is not a fair, journalistic, or balanced person posting this, but it's quite telling. It's quite meaningful. It's quite educational to look at these different spots and sort of consider them. So I offer, without any further ado, we'll talk about them as we continue watching them here, but enjoy some of these ads.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Tonsillitis? Appendicitis? Yeah! Nobody's died of tonsillitis around here for a while. Appendicitis? Nothing to worry about. Scalpel? What if the joint were in somebody else's hand, like your surgeon, your lawyer, or your local policeman? Would you still say marijuana is harmless? No, let's see if I can still make a string rhyme.
Okay, so there's the first one. The doctor, who's literally smoking a joint right before surgery. Now, of course, you don't want a doctor getting high doing surgery on you. I mean, that's just kind of so silly, it's ridiculous. For that matter, you don't want a doctor who's been drinking alcohol, or a doctor with a tobacco cigarette dangling from his lips as he's about to cut into you. Like, there's a million things you don't want your doctor doing. Doesn't mean they need to be against the law. So that's, I mean, kind of a standard, obvious, really easy analysis of that first commercial we looked at. But it was amusing that they thought this would somehow support the don't do pot ideology, mentality, whatever you want. Here's number two. Let's look at number two. Okay. Some sort of martial artist with a black belt. Cannabis. High for a night, slow for a month. All right. What do you say about that? Well, the first thing is he hit that board in the wrong place. I don't know if marijuana makes your spatial abilities to put your hand in the right place or anything like that. I mean, you know, high for a night, slow for a month is also something I think I would not agree with. From a sort of medical statistical point of view, I think we all find that somebody who is, let's say, hungover from alcohol the next day is probably also going to be slow, not impaired in a way that would impair your driving, but certainly not somebody who's, you know, so I'm not sure the logic is really there either. But again, very interesting to watch this martial artist hit the wrong part of the board and watch it flip up and then go, I mean, it's very amusing. All right, let's lose spot number 3 here. Oops, that would be the wrong window. Pardon me as I, gosh, swear to God I'm not high in doing this, and yet somehow I've messed up. All right, that's again the wrong one. I need to go ahead and close it on this screen so I'm able to see it on the correct screen, because I have multiple screens open here and it's not always easy to differentiate them. Okay, back to the high for a night, slow for a month ad. That was that one. Let's look at the next one now.
You don't want to smoke weed. Turning down friends can be tricky. Hey, Mike, want some? No way, man. That stuff's illegal. Hey, Mike, want some? I'm allergic. Hey, Mike, want some?
Okay, I gotta say, what the stoner kid here is wearing, it's not necessarily clear in that shot, but it's kind of this bizarre, almost like a hippie tunic of some kind.
No, I gotta stay low. Mike, want some? Time out. It's just not for me. It's cool. Be confident. Be honest. Just be yourself.
All right. There's one of them I support for 2 reasons. The first one, as I mentioned earlier, is that, you know, kids probably shouldn't be smoking pot if they want their brains to develop normally and solidly. The other one is the part of the stoner in that. I don't like what he's wearing, as I mentioned, but his reaction at the end there, you want some? No. Okay, it's cool. That is kind of commonly, because it's a commercial about peer pressure, right? The peer pressure of people trying to get you to smoke marijuana. And if you don't want some, as we'll see in some of the later commercials, the drug dealers or stoner roles are very, very pushy. You sure? Try some. It'll make you, you know, we'll get high, blah, blah, blah. It's very, very pushy. That was like, all right, you know, more for me, whatever, suit yourself kind of a thing. And that's probably the most realistic of all of the different stoner roles and all of these different PSAs and anti-drug commercials that we will see. Let's look at the next one here. And we'll continue. So some of them, as I said, are reasonable in spots. Some of them are really not.
Hey, Joey, I got some stuff you just gotta try. What is it? Pot, you know, marijuana. Oh, well, I don't know. Chicken?
Joey's in a jam. What should he do? Cake.
Get a pizza.
Excellent. Get a pizza. Get real.
Get
You got it. Let's see if Joey's that smart.
I'm not chicken. You're a turkey.
He's right. Drug dealers are dorks. Don't even talk to him. Cowabunga!
All right, so you got to love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you know their advice for kids being offered pot at school is probably not bad advice. Now watch this one. Want to hit? Okay.
Want to smoke a joint before trying this on?
Here you go, Ellen. You want to get high? We got some great tie stick in the back.
Okay, I'm going to stop this one. I know where it's going. These are the middle. It's almost like the Real Housewives of the marijuana generation or something like that. Like these are all middle-aged women doing, and you know that guy. But I've come back to this a time or two in this broadcast, the webcast, the cliche, green-themed websites. It's been done to death, and the sort of way in which certain pot cliches are used by people who very clearly don't smoke. Tie stick. Tie stick? Is this 1973? Like, I mean, a tie stick? I don't even know if modern stoners generally even know what that means. I'm aware of it because I think it was maybe used by George Carlin, referenced by George Carlin in a comedy bit surrounding marijuana from, again, the early to mid 70s. Like, it's not a new reference. So tie stick, I've got some great tie stick. It's like, whatever. That's just kind of really dated reference.
Smoke, kind buds, says it. You're gonna love this stuff. It'll get you really high.
Oh wait, the camera has again taken to me rather than the source I wanted it to. But you're getting the idea. And then the caption for the end of that commercial with all of the adults is, "Now you know what a 13-year-old's day can be like." Talk to your kids about drugs. Okay. All right. Let's just go back a second. This is a really good one. This is, when I talked about the reefer madness sort of mentality of it, this is the one I'm trying to talk about. Holy crap, some of this stuff is fantastic.
It's stimulating, mind expanding, safer to use than alcohol. It's the in thing, the hula hoop of the jet generation.
What?
And as much a part of growing up as smoking corn silk behind the back fence.
All right. Again, what is this? Huckleberry Finn? Let's proceed.
Such are the myths concerning marijuana. Myths that lull thousands of young people into experimenting with a noxious weed. The facts are otherwise. Marijuana is an intoxicating, mind-muddling drug. Its use can lead to abnormal behavior, to psychological dependence, and to abuse of other drugs. The human brain, after all, is made for thinking, not fumigating. It's hardly a tinker toy for experimenting with drugs. This has been a public service message of the American Medical Association and your local station.
And your local station. All right. Many things I love about that one. The sort of retroness of it all, the bizarre reefer madness style in which it's presented. The animation is certainly tremendous. The writing and the announcing are very, very old school. But again, is it really going to change anybody? Is it really going to do what it sets out to do? Are the things it claims at all reasonable, rational, true, or logical? I'm not really convinced of any of that. This one's amusing.
Hey, Lindsay. I wish you didn't smoke weed. You're not the same when you smoke. And I miss my friend. I'll be outside.
All right, so, okay. First and foremost, I love dogs. So the dog missing his friend makes me a little, just sort of on a very emotional, visceral level. I'm sad the doggy misses his friend. But at the same time, again, the teenagers probably shouldn't be smoking pot, and it's probably good advice. And it's true, you're not the same as when you don't. I believe that's in large part the point of why people smoke pot, is because they're not the same, and that's the idea.
This is Trey, this is crew. Here he is, what he do. Sitting here hugging the block and smoking weed. Hands spinning on the clock, looking straight. He never leaves. Just sit day and day and day and day. Do his time, listen to his man's rhyme. Tell him how to be a man. He listens out, but ain't got no plan. He only listens, never plays, never think, never say what he wants or what he needs. Just sit some more and smoke that weed. I wonder if he'll ever leave.
Okay. That appears to be directed certainly at a more urban city audience. Kind of what am I trying to say? I believe they call it like a poetry slam, right? Coffee house poetry type things where people write a poem. And I'm not convinced of the rhythmic integrity or sort of the rhyme quality of that poem, but it is what it is. And it is what it is. I don't really know what else to say about it. I don't really have much other feelings besides that. Except, again, like, I mean, if I were to play it again, I would say that there are certain things that really don't rhyme in that. And
This is Trey. This is Crew. Here he is.
what he do? Okay, that rhymes. Sitting here, hugging the block, smoking weed. Okay, weed and leaves do not rhyme. One ends in a D sound, one ends in an S sound.
Just sit day and day and day and day. Do his time, listen to his man's rhyme. Tell him how to be a man. He listens out, but ain't got no plan. He only listens, never plays, never think, never
Okay, plays and say do not rhyme.
say what he wants or what he needs. Just sit some more and smoke.
Okay, and what he needs and smoke that weed do not rhyme. And again, if you want them to rhyme, you can, because the previous sentence could be what he need. Now, is that grammatically correct? No. Grammatical correctness does not appear to be a high priority in this poem. So it appears to be more ethnic, urban reality and the way people talk as opposed to the way people should talk. Grammatical correctness is secondary. The sort of reality of the grammar in city grammar is probably paramount here. So if grammatical correctness is not important, why not make it rhyme? Again, maybe that's also missing one of the points, but I just don't think it's a very solid poem, or in several ways.
Your brain is a marvel of technology.
Okay, it's not technology, it's biology.
But when you take drugs, you alter your brain.
I like this, the wiring.
You change thinking patterns. You distort perception.
Again, these are all statements being said as though they're bad. I believe many people would agree with these statements as exactly why they feel a need to engage in this
And
drug.
eventually, your brain just won't be the same. Think about it while you still can.
Production of concerned children's advertisers.
I'm not saying he's a loser or anything. He's a dork. Dork! Yeah. I mean, no, we're not like, we're having fun being cool, and he's just into different stuff. Well, I hang out with my friends mostly. Girls think I'm cool. But he's, I'm into sports. Well, I used to be into sports, but now, chicks dig me. Well, I guess he has friends too. I think having girlfriends is okay, but we like to party, right? Guys like him, they don't like to party like we do. We're having a lot of fun.
All right, whatever. There are a number of them here that I'm going to skip over
Costs you more than you think.
because getting close to the end of the show here, but it's because I want these last two to appear. First of all, here's the sort of paramount classic one.
Still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
All one camera shot. I like the cinematography of that, but that's really it. All right, this is the one that really worries me because I do not understand it at all. Watch this.
Oh, yes, it is. It affects your brain. It makes you lose your memory.
Oh, damn it. I'm sorry. This stupid software has again taken my camera shot instead of what I want it to take. So I'm going to go ahead and re-switch to the screen here. Pardon me.
I mean, you can't even drive a car right. Look.
Okay.
The facts on marijuana. Marijuana does bad things to your heart and lungs. People who smoke marijuana can get sick more often because it hurts your body's power to fight disease.
Okay, I think that's false.
Marijuana gives you bad breath and stained teeth.
That is arguable.
It can make you overeat.
That's true.
It gives some people problems with memory.
That's true.
Others get sudden panic attacks.
That's also true.
Marijuana affects each person's mind and body differently.
That's true.
There's no way to predict what it might do to you.
Probably true.
If you don't like what you did, use your imagination to change it. Put yourself in the picture.
Everything's fine.
Are you sure?
Erase! Erase!
I'm here. I'm here. Find me. Find me. Find me.
Keep looking till you find me. I'm here.
I'm here. Find me. I'm here. Find me.
I'm here. Find me.
I'm here. Find me.
I'm here. Find me.
I'm here to help you. Find me. Keep looking till you find me. I'm here. I'm here. Find me. Find me. Find me. I'm here. I'm here. Find me. Find me.
I really,
Find me.
I don't understand
I'm
this.
always there. You think I'm just in that fancy machine? Think again. I'm part of you. I'm always with you because I'm inside you. I'm here. Find me. Find me. Find me. Just use this, your mind, and this.
So I don't know what Everything is Terrible is. That may have been an organization that was parodying or playing this for amusing purposes rather than trying to actually deliver an anti-marijuana message. But I don't get that find me thing at all. It's time to go. We are out of time for this edition. Join us again in 23 hours for another edition of 420 Legalization Nation. And if you happen to be aware of the radio station K-High out of Colorado Springs, Colorado, do tell them that you think they should hire me or they should find me. Find me. Until then, make it a great night.